Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly vlog. So this is what actually feels like the first week of 2025 and trying to get my life actually in order because we are going to go back to work this week. We got up at the butt crack of dawn to work out, which we normally do, but I haven't done in probably a month or so. It was not easy, but it got done and I feel great. And this is actually going to be a super chatty intro because I just have all of those endorphins from working out. It's 7:30 in the morning, so it's a really good thing that this is pre-filmed and you all aren't seeing this in real time because honestly, who wants this much energy and chances to talk at 7:30 in the morning? But I'm so excited to be back into a routine. We have book club this week on Wednesday, so I'm really excited to see the girls. I feel like I haven't seen them in a very long time, nor read a book with them in forever, and I actually still have their Christmas presents, so very excited to give them to them to them. But other than that, no real plans other than just establishing those routines again. So let's talk about the books that I'm planning on reading this week. So first, I'll be continuing my audiobook of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I am about 160 pages into this so far, and I am really enjoying it. I feel like it's starting to get really interesting. Something has just happened that shouldn't technically happen, and so I'm really excited to see where it goes. If you're thinking about reading this book and you're nervous that it wouldn't be very engaging because it's more of a character study following Addie LaRue through many centuries of her life, I would highly recommend the audiobook because Julia Whelan is just so goated. She is a fantastic narrator and brings every story to life. Next up, I actually started this book last night and I'm really excited about it. So that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I am just so excited. This is a YA fantasy duology. I haven't gotten much of the fantasy aspects yet, but I really like the aspect that our main female character, Inez, I believe, her parents were over in Egypt and they are, I think, some type of like archaeologist, and they were doing that for 17 years and she wanted to go join them, but she got a letter saying that they were dead. So now Inez is traveling from her home country in Buenos Aires over to Egypt, and this is very scandalous for the time period, an unchaperoned woman. So she is going over there to try and figure out what happened to her parents. I'm actually reading this one on Kindle Unlimited because I haven't read on my Kindle in a while and I've been reading a lot of physical books, and so now I get to knock out reading one of my physical books, but I have my little like Kindle clicker now, so I can walk and read and just kind of really zone in, and I feel like I read more and more quickly when I read on my Kindle, so I'm definitely enjoying this. And then I'm going to do something extremely rare, and if I can do it all in this video, I'll be so proud of myself because I want to jump straight into Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez, which is the second book, obviously, in this duology. And I don't typically read books that fast in series, but since it's only a duology, and I didn't pick What the River Knows up because everybody said the ending was so crazy, it leaves off on a cliffhanger, I wanted to wait until Where the Library Hides came out, and so now that they're both out and in my possession, I want to give them both a fair shot and go into one just right after the other. So those are my reading plans for the week. It looks pretty thick, I'm not gonna lie, but I have high hopes nonetheless. Now for a couple of chatty thoughts. First, I love my Peloton tread. I think that it is so great. If you weren't here when I was building it, we got it from Facebook Marketplace because obviously they are horribly expensive. But I got it off of Facebook Marketplace and it was much more affordable and I love it so much. And I took my first Kristen Ferguson class this morning, and she is just so charismatic and so excited to be there. I loved her class so much. I felt myself just getting so jazzed up to be there and get active. So I am really excited that I found her, and I don't typically stray from instructors because I'm scared that they're not going to be as fun or I'm not going to be as motivated during my workout. But Bex Gentry, who is my tried and true, recommended Kristen, and I am so glad that she did because I loved her. I'm gonna limit this to 3 points. The second point, I started doing heatless curls. I don't know if you can see too much, but it's kind of doing something, right? It's doing a little bit of something, and I just put my hair in socks at night, and then I don't have to do it at all in the morning, and this is after it went through a 45-minute workout. So love that. I'm kind of I'm kind of on that train for right now. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about for a minute just the overwhelming peace that I feel already this year, even though it has been chaotic and crazy. Every year since I've graduated college, I've had some type of certification or grad school, and that academic mental tab has always been open. And this year it doesn't, and it's actually one of my goals not to get a certification or do anything that is going to require a test that will stress me out. And I feel so at peace. Like, if this is how everybody else lives their life, then I think that I can get on this train. I just want to focus on basically getting into the best shape of my life physically and mentally. So, focusing on journaling and meditating while also on exercising, and then also on other hobbies like baking. My starter is finally coming around. So, hopefully, this weekend I'll be able to make some sourdough. And I'm really loving life right now, even though it's Q1. Everybody says that the winter blues or they get seasonal depression, and I totally get that. I don't want to go outside or leave my house at all. But we have no plans for the foreseeable future besides like book club, or like on the weekends we have zero plans, and I can just hibernate and be in my cozy little home and just do my cozy little hobbies. And I just am so grateful that I have done so much for myself in the past to be at this point and just feel an overwhelming sense of peace. Who is she? Who is she? But I am so happy with her being myself. So let's get into work for the day. And honestly, all we're doing after work, we made dinner last night, so we'll just have leftovers tonight and then probably walk and read, and that is a full night. And I'm probably gonna be gassed by 8 p.m. because we got up at 4:45, 5-ish. So it'll probably be an early night, but still a productive one nonetheless. So let's get this day started. It is really hard to film when it gets dark at 5 o'clock, so apologies for the harsh lighting because I know I look like a ghost. But I wanted to provide a little bit of a reading update because I know I told you all this morning what I was reading, but I have a couple more thoughts that I was hoping to share. So like I said, I've been reading What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I'm about 100 pages in now, and I don't know if I'm really enjoying it or I'm not as sucked into it as I was thinking I was going to be. I told you all this morning, but the story essentially follows Inez, who was living in Buenos Aires. She just turned 19, so it feels new adultish. And her parents were over in Egypt doing, I'm not really sure what, but they went there for basically half the year for all of her entire life. And now she got a letter from whoever saying that they are dead. So she headed over there to go and figure it out because her mom's brother is over there and still carrying on their affairs. But upon her getting there, he basically tries to send her right around to go back home, and just it's very suspicious. He feels very like closed off and guarded, so it makes me think that he might be a villain, or he might just really trying to be protecting her from something and can't say anything about it, but not loving his approach. Also, the love interest is the uncle's assistant, I guess, and he's kind of hard to read. I'm not really a huge fan yet. He seems very like single-minded in his task, and his task is basically to get Inez back on the boat to head home. But he is kind of like fond of her not really being the typical lady of the time. But he also did like a weird little like, if you don't want me to do this, do you want me to flirt with you? And I was like, oh, that seemed like a lot. We're 20% of the way in, so I'm hoping that it'll start picking up and we'll start doing more other than just trying to get Inez back home, because obviously she's not going back home. So that's book one. And then my audiobook, I'm not going to say a ton about Addie Olivia because I feel like everybody knows. And when I looked at Goodreads to see how many people had read it, it was like 1.5 million, and that is insane. But so worth it. I think the story is so much fun already. I am a bit confused because we're at 35% of the way in, and the thing that basically breaks headlines, or it's in the summary, that basically Addie is not remembered by anybody because she wants to live forever and not be tied down to anybody. So the cost of that was not telling anybody her name, her backstory, and they never remember her. But somebody did remember her. And that's already happened. So I'm not sure how that's going to progress because it feels like too early in the book for that to have already happened. This also has a dual timeline, so we're getting to watch Addie try and figure out what this immortality looks like essentially, and how much she struggled with it in the beginning versus how she is now. So I'm really liking following her through time and just seeing the different places that she's seeing as well. And I'm very excited because I go back to work tomorrow, so I'll have more time on my commute to listen to it. But I think I'm actually going to take a shower and just kind of turn in for the night and get my little clicker out and get cozy in bed, because I have already done a lot of exercising today and walking and I'm a bit tired. So we're gonna do that and I'll update you all tomorrow. A bit of a late update and probably a lot of noise going on in the background, and I do apologize, but you know, it is a house. We do house things such as run a very noisy dishwasher, and Dylan can't shower with the door closed, so and Scooter's tip tap of his paws just always is happening. But a bit of a later update, it's about 8:30, and that is really the only time that I've had today to sit down because we have been going. Today was my first day back in the office for the first time in probably a month, and I was a bit nervous because I have a new commute now that we have moved, and I had to take Scooter there as well. And let me just say, we did not move closer to my work. I took forever today to commute, so I left at like 7:15. I didn't get to the office until 8, and then I had a meeting until 5, and so I hit so much traffic. I didn't get home until 6:15, 6:20, and I hate that. I hate that so much. I spent so much time in the car, and it just really made me irritated because there's only so many hours that you have after work. I was also really proud of myself this morning for getting up and exercising, even though I was trying to keep things quiet because Dylan didn't make it up this morning, and so I kept all the lights off and was trying to be quiet, and I just fell down the stairs. Luckily, it was only about 3 stairs, and I really didn't hurt myself at all, but what the heck? Very discombobulated. It's been quite a day. I'm hoping that tomorrow will be a bit better. But luckily, in all of my driving today, I was able to listen to a good chunk of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I'm about 250 pages into it now. I don't know if you can even tell where the bookmark is, but I am loving this book so much. I had a real connecting point with the main male love interest in here because he was having a moment where he was just freaking out about the fact that time seemed to just keep flying by and you couldn't grasp it, and no matter what you did, it wouldn't slow down, and it just made you kind of like hyperventilate and just make you so sad that you'll never get these moments back. And it was just so real, and it was even better because he was saying this to somebody who felt that on such a deep level that she prayed to whoever would answer, and basically has not had to feel that way about time in many centuries. So I'm obsessed with the main male love interest, but I am also really interested to see how this is going to work because he remembers her, but what does that actually look like? And there is obviously a bit of romance there, but how can she possibly be with somebody when nobody else around him remembers her? And she doesn't grow old, she can't make a mark on anything. Like, a life with Addie is actually unattainable. It doesn't make sense. But she is just so thrilled that somebody has finally remembered her, so she's just soaking in all of these moments and not really thinking about what comes next. But as the reader, who's only about halfway through this book, that's all I can think about. Like I said, I love this book. I think that the urgency about life and experiencing things is just done extremely well, and you feel so relatable to the characters, and I love how they talk about art and books and poetry, and I just think it's all so stunning. So I am really impressed with this one and can't wait to keep reading it. I haven't read that much more of What the River Knows, but I think I have a qualm with it. And the qualm being that it's supposed to be a fantasy duology, and there are basically just scraps of fantasy. Like, they aren't sprinkles. I actually heard Olivia Rizalate on one of her newest vlogs. She mentioned that fantasy elements are like sprinkles where they are intentionally placed, but scraps you just kind of dropped and forgot to pick up. And that's how I feel about the magic system in here, because there really isn't one at this point. I don't know, it's just not doing it for me the way that I thought that it would. I'm really hoping still that it will turn around because I'm only about 35% of the way in, and I'm not reading it very quickly either, so I don't know. This one is not living up to my expectations at this point, but again, hopefully it'll turn around. But now, let's go put an end to this crazy day and get ready for bed. Okay, everybody, it's actually Saturday morning now. I know I have not been very good about vlogging this week, but honestly, I've been kind of in a creative rut with TikTok officially going away. Basically, tomorrow I have just felt kind of sad. Honestly, that's where I've had the most success in talking about books and the most followers, and now I have to go over to Instagram and I'm not the best at just taking photos, so I've had a lot of existential dread honestly about figuring out this new routine with content creation, and it has made me pretty unmotivated, I won't lie. But that does not mean we are going to give up. We are going to keep trying and doing our best because it is just for fun anyways. So I am gonna try to figure that out a bit more today. I just went to the grocery store and stocked up on stuff for the week, and I'm meeting my sister a little bit later at 1 for some pho. So I'm really looking forward to that because it is extremely cold. Also, I feel like my rut is a bit too because I haven't really finished a book this week yet, and it is Saturday, and that's a pretty long time to not finish a book for me. Basically, this entire week I've been reading What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, and it's just not that great. I don't know what it is, but it is just not that good. I feel like it's really lacking, one, in the world building, two, in our characters. Our main female character is supposed to be this confident and just persistent woman who's going to figure out what happened to her parents, but then does stuff that negates that, and I am not really a fan. The romance to me is kind of cringy. I'm not a huge fan of the love interest or just their dynamic. I don't think that there's anything truly there. I don't think we're seeing a lot of them building something together, just them bickering. So I don't know, I'm not having a great time with that one, and then I'm trying to decide if I'm going to read the next one to see if it gets any better. Outside of that though, I have been having the best time with the audiobook for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It really took a different direction than what I thought we were going to get, so that was really exciting and unexpected but enjoyable. So I'm really liking this one. I'm only about 60% of the way into it, and it's starting to feel at this point like I've been listening to it for too long. So I feel like I'm gonna try to do a lot this weekend to get some audiobook reading done because I don't want it to drag on so long that I'm just like, okay, like let's just wrap this up, and so I can move on to the next one because I'm tired of listening to it. But that is a bit of what we're getting to, so I'm hoping to get ahead of that. I'm really excited because it is a bank holiday weekend, so I have Monday off, so I'm planning to do a lot of baking and reading this weekend, and also then trying to figure out how to bookstagram. So a fun weekend ahead. I'm looking forward to just trying to get into a groove with this new routine and content creation and going from there. And I will take you all along a bit better than what I did this week. So let's get started by doing a little bit of exercising and then getting ready because this is not how I'm going to go out to lunch and go from there. Okay, it's actually a few days later now, but I've had zero motivation, like I mentioned earlier, to pick up the camera, but I'm finally here to close off this vlog, and I finished both of the reads that I set out for at the beginning of this week, so let's do a quick recap on them. So first, I actually ended up giving 2 stars to What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, and I am just so shocked by it because everybody loves this book. I have not heard a ton of criticism on it, but the criticism that I did read on Goodreads from some of my friends was the exact same problems that I was having with it. So first, for a fantasy romance, there is like no fantasy or magic in here. It was extremely painful at times, so didn't love that. I thought it was very hard to get through because there was just like random tidbits and you're like, what is even happening? So just really under delivered in the fantasy of the fantasy romance genre. Next, our main female character was made out to be this very like strong female character and just fell flat. I felt like she did a lot of things that were very frustrating and kind of contradicted her independence and her persistence. So I didn't love her character, and I really didn't love the main male love interest. He was just very cringy with his flirting to me, and I just did not feel any type of connection or really see that relationship between the two of them blossom or grow at all, honestly. So I don't know, this was just like a super weird read, but the ending was just good enough that I had to pick up the second book to see what happens. However, I actually would not recommend picking this one up. There are just way better fantasy romance books out there, and this unfortunately is not one of them. On the other hand, let's talk about a book that is worth all of the hype that it gets, because I am here to tell you all that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab is a god tier book for me. I actually don't even have the words to explain how impactful and just amazing and original that this book is, but it was everything that I didn't know that I needed in a book, but delivered anyway. I've described it as like hauntingly beautiful because the prose, I think people get really carried away with purple prose and just being really descriptive about things that don't really matter. But in here, she talks about things so concisely that it just is that much more hard hitting. And it's so easy to understand. The language and the message is so simple. And I think that's what makes it even more moving. When I tell you all that at the like 85% mark, when things were really starting to escalate and kind of come towards their end, I felt physically ill because I did not want anything bad to happen to these characters. But given what they were dealing with, which is basically like a god of darkness, how could something bad not happen to them? I personally really liked the ending because I felt like it was very real and we didn't get just like a cheap fake out or like cheap happy ending. It is an ending and it is the ending that this book deserved, and I really appreciated that. So if you haven't already picked this one up, I would highly recommend it, and even more so if you can get your hands on the audiobook, because Julia Whelan is just the best. She is the absolute best and just brings the story to life, and the conviction in her voice when she's talking about Addie and Henry, and it's just so incredible. So highly, highly, highly recommend this one. And that is my weekly reading vlog, so I'm going to end the video off here. I am very sorry that I'm being very inconsistent about vlogging, but we are doing our best as we get back into a routine. Let me know if you've read either of these books, and also let me know what you ended up reading this week, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!